Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. Today we're going to talk a little bit of baseball here on this channel as Eric, Texas has made a few different moves, fired David Pierce earlier this week. We're recording this on Monday the 24th. So they let go of David Pierce here on Monday morning. And now, as we well know, Texas is going to be hiring a new coach. We know about that hire. We know it's Jim Schlossnagle, but the David Pierce era is over, and now Texas, whether he's taking a national champion head coach or they're taking a national runner-up head coach, has their new guy in Jim Schlossnagle.
Yeah, I really regret not packing my Texas baseball hat. I do have one that's about 15 years old, watched it a few times. Obviously, this is not my forte, but I love covering big stories, especially ones that work out in the UT's favor. And this is obviously a really big one that, it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise. It kind of, caught me by surprise. And then, when I first heard about this, there was concern whether or not he would actually make the move. If he's really successful, will he still make the move? If he wins it, will he still make the move? But, we're shooting this video beforehand. We expect it to happen. And, it's going to be big for Texas. Now, like you said, we don't know whether or not he won it yet. This is being filmed that day. But for now, we do know David Pierce is out. We've known that for at least 10 days or so. And now Texas is we wait to see what Texas does.
Yeah, the timing is not for no reason, but also it was something expected. I think in
Right.
Texas circles, David Pierce needed to go on a very deep postseason run to have a shot at
Mhm.
holding on to his job. Combine the fact that he didn't get out of the regional, didn't even make a regional final, didn't win the Big 12,
Yeah.
has shown struggles in the transfer portal, roster building, and then going into the SEC, which was we know about football being tough, but the baseball is arguably just as tough, if not tougher.
We had that thread on IT talking about the most competitive sport in the SEC, and almost everybody understood. I actually, a couple of women's sports are quite competitive as well. But baseball is, universally regarded as the most contentious sport. Look at all the different SEC teams that have won the College World Series. I think in the last 15 years, it's incredible. And Texas wants to be competitive in every single sport they play in. And, they take a lot of pride in the Directors Cup. They've won that 3 of the last 4 years. And going into the SEC, they had to make a change. And who would be better than the man that just is I wouldn't say dominating the SEC just because that's impossible, but who's shown quite a bit of success.
Let's go on to Jim Schlossnagle. A lot of this has to do with the fact that he and Chris Delconte were together for a long time at TCU. Technically, this is Chris Delconte's first hire of a head baseball coach in his career as an athletic director. Between Rice, Wayne Graham was there. Schlossnagle was at TCU when Delconte showed up, and David Pierce was at Texas when he got there. But if you're Jim Schlossnagle, if you're a national finalist at the worst, national champion at the best, why would you leave that program for your rival in Texas just down the road?
Yeah, I think it all starts with Chris Delconte. And we knew when Delconte got hired, the word was that he had extremely strong relationships with his coaches at TCU, the administration at TCU. We knew that at the time, but what I'm understanding now is I'm surprised he even left TCU because his relationship with Gary Patterson, as we know, that played a part in Patterson's 1 year with Texas, which was unprecedented. This is even more unprecedented. But it's the number one factor with this hire. Jim Schlossnagle would not be making the move to Texas, I don't think, if his good friend was not, captaining the ship, the athletic department. I think that's the number one factor, played a massive role. Obviously, there's a lot of trust there. When Schlossnagle hears that he's going to get all the support he needs, he's going to trust it because it's coming from one of his best friends.
Also, when you look at the TCU program going back to those days together, there was no real history. They had 2 NCAA tournament appearances. I think they had 8 Southwest Conference titles at most, and a lot of that has to do with Texas. But once Schlossnagle got there, they became the DFW team because Dallas
Yeah.
Baptist hadn't developed yet. SMU doesn't have a baseball program. They became the team in DFW. And every time Schlossnagle achieved more success making the tournament, Chris Delconte would go to the mat and get the necessary additions to Lupton Stadium, to the locker rooms, to the facilities. And I'm curious if you remember the first time TCU broke through and made
Yeah.
the College World Series
Mhm.
under Jim Schlossnagle. It came at Texas expense in
Right.
2010. And a lot of people don't like TCU baseball just because of that image of all the different Horned Frogs dancing on the Longhorn in the outfield. That was a team, that was a program built by Schlossnagle despite changes in program affiliation, WAC, Conference USA,
Yep.
all the different changes they went through till they got to the Big 12, and then they succeeded and went to Omaha in the Big 12. So that relationship.
He's won everywhere he went. I remember wondering where the hell did TCU come from? I've never heard of TCU in baseball at all, and it was that year against Texas. They had a miserable history, basically non-existent. It's incredible, but it's proof that you can have these ground up rebuilds and turn a also ran into a power. We have to keep that in mind with some football schools that have been dormant for a long time and come out of nowhere to reach heights they've never reached before. But he's done that. One at UNLV first, right? Then he got the TCU job that well, I don't even remember who hired him at TCU. I can't remember the athletic director at the time, but it wasn't Delconte. Won there, made a huge move to A&M. That was a head turning move. He had so much success at TCU. What did he make? 5 College World Series there, I think, and then success at Texas, at A&M, and then soon to be Texas.
One of the other things that you mentioned as being a big reason why is just the cities that the programs are in. You have the University of Texas at Austin in a big, growing 2 million metropolitan area city versus College Station, which of course by itself has grown immensely in the past few years. But when you think of the two different cities, they could not be more than, they're worlds apart.
Yeah. I think the city also a destination job within the city. That's a huge component here. Texas is viewed as a destination job. But yeah, he spent more time in Austin than people realized, and I think that a lot of that has to do with his friendship with Delconte. Those guys have hung out and spent quite a bit of time together, and I think he just feels comfortable there. I harbor no ill will towards College Station. I live in a smaller town than College Station, a much smaller town. Everybody's got their own different preferences, and I think he was in Fort Worth for a very long time. Fort Worth's not a small place. I think the move to Austin suits his personality better. And yeah, that played a part on top of the relationship with Delconte. Again, it all starts with Delconte, but I think Delconte being in Austin increased his familiarity with the area for sure.
One thing that I think, we're not sure of dollar figures quite yet, but to make this type of move, it's going to require a nice little raise for Jim Schlossnagle. Texas
Yeah.
was already paying David Pierce just over $1 million a year, one of, I think, 10 coaches in the sport who had that distinction. I'm not sure what the numbers are going to be, but that it's going to be big. And that speaks a lot to the resolve that Texas had in wanting to make this happen.
Yeah, I've heard a couple different things on the numbers. Some of it, his personal salary. Some of it, that what he's got for his coaches, his fellow coaches, his bench coach, pitching coach, all that. Texas, I expect Texas to reset the market on this hire, and that should not shock anybody. It's as much as Schlossnagle wants to be at Texas, you still have to make the financials work. But yeah, Texas has the resolve to land him. They have the ability to land him. A&M's always saying they've got as much money as Texas. I don't think they're going to match this. And even if they did, I'm not sure it would matter. So, but yeah, Texas's resolve to land him is significant. They're going to show that financially, and also, he's going to have a lot of latitude to bring whoever he wants. I've heard he's going to bring his whole staff. I don't know if that's going to play out exactly like that, but I've heard he's going to bring his whole staff. We'll see. There's still some things we're investigating, but expect Texas to make a very long-term commitment with him. He's 53. I would not be surprised to see that be a much longer commitment than you normally see. And then there's going to be some money that we have not heard before in college baseball that is probably going to turn some heads. The whole thing is going to turn heads. The financials will do it as well.
One last aspect, and we touched on this a little bit, but he is what helps those programs become successful. And we talked about the TCU aspect of it. I know with
Yeah.
Texas A&M, they had Rob Childress for, I think, over a decade or something like that. And they got to a point kind of like Texas. They plateaued, but their plateau was occasional Omaha appearance, falling short, falling short, falling short. At the end of the Childress era, I think they went under 500 in SEC play. They made the move, and with a lot of the same players, some portal additions in 2022, they make the College World Series, and they beat Texas, which I'm sure got a lot of people's attention. But just that, even at Texas A&M, you can tell that Jim Schlossnagle took a program that always has potential. Aggies talk about potential all the time, but it was real, and he realized it in the course of just 2 short years.
Yeah, before you even assess a move like this, you have to say, hey, what's the risk here? Well, the financials that we're talking about means there's no risk financially. Obviously, he's going to be set for life. He already was set for life if he's even halfway smart with his money. So there's no risk there, but there's also no risk of whether or not he's going to succeed, or at least very little risk. Texas is going to do whatever it needs. That he's his own. He's going to ensure his own success, like he's done everywhere else. He's going to have all the resources he needs. It being a destination job for coaches means it's also a place for players. Kids in Texas grow up wanting to play college baseball at UT. You know, A&M is a fine program, but it's nowhere close to Texas, not even close, and not even in the same stratosphere. They'd have to win a whole lot more for the next 20 years before to even have that conversation. So the risk is minimal. Not even it's negligible. It's not even there. And you know, some people, Aggies might try to tell you it's a lateral move. It's not a lateral move. Like I said, it's a destination job. He's going to be the highest paid baseball coach in the country at the school with perhaps the richest tradition. You know, they've made by far the most College World Series out of anybody. And they've won what are they, the number 3 or 4 all time in wins?
Number two, or
Number
no,
two,
three. You're right.
three. I think they're all time in wins, but number 3 in actual championship wins. I think. Having to do a little bit of research. Baseball is not exactly my wheelhouse, despite this Astros hat. But yeah, so it's no risk. So you look at the 5 factors: relationship with Delconte, destination job, Austin over College Station, the resolve to land him and do what it takes to make his whole staff happy, and then him being his own source of success. The guy's going to win no matter where he goes, and now he's going to do it in Austin.
Before we keep on going, got to give a little thanks to our friend Andre the Lawyer. Andre the Lawyer has secured millions of dollars for his client. So if you're in a store and you slip and fall, call the lawyers at Andre the Lawyer. They routinely handle these cases, and they handle a bunch of these types of cases for other lawyers as well. So if other lawyers trust Andre the Lawyer, you should too. Their principal office is in Dallas, Texas, but they're serving Texans throughout the state. A diehard Longhorn, a friend of Inside Texas. Call Andre the Lawyer at 214 444 8808. 214 444 8808. Eric, when we talk about hiring traits, we talked about that with Steve Sarkisian, talked about that a little bit with Chris Beard before that went sideways. But you look at the traits that Jim Schlossnagle has. It's success at UNLV, success at TCU, success at Texas A&M, and it has to do not only with his own acumen but with the guys he hires. I'm not
Yeah.
sure a ton about the UNLV staff that he had, but at TCU, Kirk Sarloos, who wore the hat that you're wearing for a little bit, became their accomplished pitching coach. Now he's their head coach, led him to Omaha a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
Tony Vitello, the guy he faced off with, he was an assistant at TCU. Tennessee's top pitching coach, or recruiter at least, not pitching coach, but top recruiter, Josh Elander, he was at TCU for some time. So all these different guys at TCU have gone on and blossomed into into nice roles in their career. And his Texas A&M staff is very well celebrated. They have the pitching coach Max Weiner. His Twitter handle is the Arm Farm, and I think if you watched a lot of these A&M pitchers, you can tell that they go
Yeah.
and get things done and they are accomplished. And then you've even seen, I think, some new history with Schlossnagle, that he's adjustable. Steve Sarkisian, to bring it to football, make that cross-sport comparison, always talks about adapting or dying. Well, Jim Schlossnagle was able to go get, heck, Josh Stewart, who is going to play a little bit, got him out of the portal from Texas. Braden Montgomery, who's unfortunately injured, left Stanford. Texas wanted him, Texas A&M wanted him, and Texas A&M got him. Became one of the best players on that team this year. I think there are a few more transfers that have been involved, but he has shown an ability to find out what's going on at his level, get the best things possible at that level, and then succeed and bring it all to a head. And you've seen it with them being in the championship series.
Let me say 2 things, and again, this is not my expertise, but you mentioned Botello. We have to say that his name was bandied about and rumored quite a bit. There it was Schlossnagle, the whole time. It was only Schlossnagle. Anything else was smoke and mirrors. It wasn't happening. Vitello is a fine coach. Now, if they couldn't have gotten Schlossnagle or whatever, maybe, but it was always Schlossnagle. But he's a fantastic coach. And I have to go to my wheelhouse, which is baseball, or which is football. Marco Jones, the recruit that Texas is after, when he talked about his A&M visit, he went to A&M on official visit earlier this month. He mainly talked about baseball and Schlossnagle, so I do think that's going to help Texas's cause with Marco, the fine edge. But one thing he said was, "Man, who wouldn't want to be a hitter in that lineup?" So when you have a guy that's known as a pitching genius, he's a pitcher by trade at Elon, but you've got this, California, Mike Judge, not Mike Judge, Andrew Judge. Who is it? Aaron Judge.
Mike Trout, Aaron Judge.
Mike Judge, oh man, Beavis and Butthead. I feel like Butthead right now. Um, yeah, so when you've got Marco Jones talking about wanting to be in that lineup as a hitter, or who wouldn't want to be in that lineup, that's I'm hearing all the right things that I want to about Schlossnagle, because so long, we had Augie Ball, which is just bunt it. Haven't seen enough fireworks since the Titanic left. And so you're hoping he can rekindle that at Texas. So man, it's just a really exciting hire. I'll know a lot more about baseball this time next year, I promise.
It's interesting, when you go back to all these different coaches, I think 5 men, maybe 6, have held this position full time since like World War II. You have Billy Dish, you have Bib Falk, and there was a 3-year period where the football coach coached in Bib Falk's place. And then obviously Cliff Gustafson, hired from South San Antonio High School, Texas. When it's time for Gustafson to go, they hire Augie Garrido. Augie Garrido had defeated Cliff Gustafson a handful of times at Omaha, at Cal State Fullerton, had bounced between Fullerton, Illinois, back to Fullerton. And then Texas hired him, hired a championship pedigree coach. I don't want to speak ill of David Pierce, but his resume was not Augie Garrido's. That is for 100% sure. But now Texas is hiring someone, like you mentioned, wanting to compete for national championships in every sport. We'll hire the guy who just played for a national championship and, pending the results tonight, may have won one. So
I think I read Schlossnagle is one of 4 coaches to have won multiple College World Series games at 2 different schools. I think, of course, Augie Garrido. That was back when I did watch a lot of college baseball. They're always lighting it up at Cal State Fullerton, and Schlossnagle. And then, of course, depending on what he does tonight, he might be one of very few to have won the whole thing at 2 different schools. So quite an accomplishment, and just an amazing feat for Texas to pull it off. But again, it required some good fortune. That hire Delconte is paying dividends in baseball all these years later.
absolutely should be fun to watch. Should be fun to see what happens at the Dish, not only physically, but with the people who fill it over the coming years when they're in the SEC. So, Eric, thanks for talking a little baseball on this football podcast. Make sure you use the promo code IT1 and head to Inside Texas to get 2 months of premium access for just $1. It's official visit season, it's decision season. You're going to want to have all the information available. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for helping us get to 8,000. Help us get to that plateau. And also, if you're listening on podcast, make sure that you give us a 5-star review and give us a quality rating as well. Eric, thank you so much. Thank you to Andre the Lawyer. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.